Hello again, Flosstube. It's Cowgirl Kate. I'm here with the week 1 progress report for March, and I just kind of decided to do a weekly update because I had so many goals for March that it was just easier to chop it down into a little more palatable chunks. So I have here the Saline project, and I'll just hold her up. And she's got her beads figured out, so I was very happy to get that far on her. I didn't get over into this side yet because I need to move her onto a different set of Q-snaps, and you know, I just ain't bothered with that yet. But these were the ones that were kind of the most pain in the butt because I switched some of the colors around, and the ones over here, you know, after you do so many of them, you kind of get in the routine of it where it's not all rocket science to, you know, just throw some stuff on them. So her goal is done, and she can be moved on to a different set of Q-snaps, so yay! Sorry if that bounced you guys around. The other goal was Lithia. Got her skin done. Hopefully that's picking up okay. So she can, I guess, retire for a while. And back there on the bed you see Ireland, or hopefully you can see her. But I fished her out, so now she's an official underfoot in the way she's going to have something happen to. So hopefully, you know, she'll be a lot of fun to make a lot of progress on now that a couple of the littler goals are out of the way. You know, it's all gangbusters for Ireland now. So, and today is only March 2nd. Obviously I couldn't sleep last night, which is why the skin and those beads got done. So, so I'm off to an early start for March, and that's a rare thing. So we'll get into Ireland more, and hopefully next week will be a better progress report for her because she hasn't had anything done to her yet. I also thought I'd do a couple of shout-outs today. And today's are Edess Lamb, Goldfishy 25, and Nikki at CrossStitch Supplies. Her YouTube tag or address or whatever is CrossStitch Supplies, but she has some really fun tutorials on her channel. A lot of you may know her from Facebook. She's pretty popular in the Mirabilia groups, and she has some tutorials about different styles of beading and, you know, so forth. So give them a check out. I'm sure you'll be entertained, and, you know, hopefully they'll get some new subscribers. I also thought that I'd do Adele's For Reals tag. I'm trying to get through the tags, you know, as I come up with them, and or find them, I mean. And, you know, they're fun little questions. Question 1 for Adele's For Reals tag. What level of stitcher do you consider yourself? I guess I really don't consider myself at a level. More of a constantly seeks to improve. How's that? I'm not a beginner. You know, I kind of moved away from those kinds of projects a long time ago, but I'm not what I would consider a professional. I don't model stitch. I don't belong to an embroidery guild. I've seen some of the projects that people have done for being in a guild, and whoo, no, I don't have the time to devote to be that level of perfection. You know, I would love to be that way naturally, but I'm not. So, you know, it takes a lot of time to get that way. Like anything, you have to practice it, and I'm just not there. So I guess maybe intermediate, if I had to put a word onto it. The specialty stitches don't bother me, you know, the fractionals, you know, it's just fiddly little things just take time to get through, but, you know, I can do them. I've done railroading, you know, basically any little trick that I've read about or picked up or whatever, I can utilize that, but, you know, I'm by no means a professional. I just, you know, I don't I don't have the time to worry about being a professional. You know, it's just pretty much for my own enjoyment. So, question 2. How many whips and UFOs do you have? Oh Lord, a lot. A lot. I guess I've never really counted them because they're all in different boxes according to, you know, either the style or the designer. So there's a lot, and that's okay. Someday they'll get finished, and, you know, whatever. And there's also not only my own collection of projects, but, you know, I also have the ones that Kirsten's family sent over. So there's, you know, there's a lot of them around, but they're treasures. You know, it's kind of like Gollum and my precious, you know, that's my wealth, you know, my hoard of gold is, you know, my projects that are all waiting for my attention. So, question 3. Are you enabled easily? God, yes and no. Typically with like the designers that I'm already kind of favoring, yes, very easily enabled that way, just because so many times the cover pictures don't do the actual project justice, and, you know, you realize that kind of early on when you begin stitching that, you know, the photos that the companies take of their stuff is never going to be as impressive as what it looks like in real life. But it's hard to, you know, see a lot of the finished projects also. So, you know, if you don't have an LNS, or if the people that work there don't have the models or aren't interested in doing the models of the designs that you're interested in, you know, it's still a pretty safe bet that whatever project you pick out is going to look 10 times better than what it does on the picture. And if it don't, you can change it around so it looks like how you envision it. So, you know, there's a lot of freedom that way too. You can switch stuff out. So I'd have to say, yeah, I'm easily enabled for designers that I'm already kind of partial to. And for ones that I'm not, I guess a new style that I've kind of been introduced to through Flosstube and some of the newer Facebook groups that I'm in now is like Cloud Factory and that sort of style of projects. They're adorable. You know, I wish I'd have found them sooner. But I'm still trying to kind of, and Soda Stitch is another one, I'm still kind of on the fence because I don't want to get caught up in the popularity of something and then get into the project and think, oh, this really wasn't what I've expected. So, you know, I've just been kind of doing my own research on it before I jump on the bandwagon and get some of those patterns. That's just kind of how I approach things. You know, I don't really, in my mind, yes, I'm enabled, but in my practicality approach to things, you know, I want to do a little more research before I'll commit my time to a project like that, because my time gets kind of stretched. Question number 4. Do you have a self-diagnosis of Stitcher's ADD? And that'd be attention deficit disorder. Yeah, I do. You know, guilty. And that's just because I don't have a very strict rotation. March is about it. You know, that's the only time of the whole year that I specifically say, okay, I'm going to do this, 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 and this. And it usually revolves around the Celtic ladies just because, you know, St. Patty's Day, and it's just kind of fun to, you know, drag that all in together. So that's about my only structure for stitching out of the whole year. And usually it's kind of almost a finale too, because after March, you know, there's April, we have spring on the farm, which is nuts. Summer is nuts. Fall is nuts. It's crazy during warm weather here, just because of all the work outside. So winter to, you know, early spring is kind of my stitching time, and I get a lot more done. So March is pretty much the only structure I have. Otherwise, I'm all over the place. It could be a Mirabilia today, Chatelaine tomorrow, a sampler next week. You know, it's just whatever trips my trigger, I'm going to go drag that project out and work on it. So I never really know. And sometimes I'm just kind of like, I don't want to work on anything unless it jumps out at me, so then I just dig through the pile until something does. So yes, I have it bad. Question number 5. Have you finished anything full coverage, like a Haid, Heaven and Earth, or Mystic Stitch, or anything like that? No, I haven't. I only just started collecting the patterns seriously maybe 5 years ago, and started a couple, and then, you know, spent more time collecting the patterns than I did kitting them up and starting them and so forth. And then there was like a 3-year period where, with everything that was going on, I didn't have time whatsoever to even look at a Haid or a Mystic Stitch or any of that sort of thing. So they just kind of stayed packed away in their boxes. We were building a house. We were helping our in-laws move to another house. All the health issues that were going on with them. So there was so much going on. I just didn't have time to do much stitching whatsoever. And when I did, it was simpler projects, you know, like the Mirabilias. They were kind of a lot easier to deal with. So, no, I have not finished any. And now this year I've kind of gotten back into the Haids and the full coverage projects. So, you know, it's all an evolution of the journey, I want to say. So, anyway, question number 6. Do I enjoy confetti stitching? Yes and no. It depends on how heavy it is. I mean, I know I have to get used to it because I have a lot of Josephine Walls in my stash, and her designs typically, that'd be from Heaven and Earth, they typically have a lot of confetti, according to little bits that I've picked up from other stitchers talking about them. And just looking at the charts, they're going to have a lot of confetti. So, does it bother me? No. It just takes time to get through it. So what I need to figure out, because I haven't really run into a whole lot of it yet with the projects that I had, other than the Teresa Wenslers, and they're not nearly the level of, you know, some of the Haids. I just need to find a method that's going to work for me to deal with them. So I'm just kind of shopping around for something a little more appropriate to that style of project. Question number 7. How many finishes this year? None. None. And that's okay. I'm trying to think. I don't even have a little tiny finish like a scissor fob or anything like that. And that's okay, you know, whatever. It's not a race. Question number 8. Are you bored about the number of whips, or do you not care? Well, obviously I don't care. I kind of think of it as like, you know, my dragon hoard or whatever. That's my wealth sitting over there in boxes, you know, whatever. So no, I don't care how many, and the more the merrier. It'll get done someday. Number 9. Any dirty little secrets about your stitching? Oh yes. I have one, and it's just kind of because I'm not really used to working with a hoop for stitching other than with my Heaven and Earth projects. Well, sometimes I forget to take the hoop off when I'm done working on it, and it'll kind of sit in there for like a month. That's kind of what's going on now. Because, excuse me, question number 10 is the messiest back of a project. And that goes back to the Heaven and Earth, and I got it right here. And that would be Gypsy Firefly, who's still on her hoop, as you can see, because this was the January challenge, and I thought I'd be getting back to it and kind of filling in these squares or whatever. But I'm just starting to get into some confetti with this one, and it's not heavy yet. But if you look at the back, let me get that in there for sure. It's just starting to get into the confetti, like up in the leaves and the sky and tree and stuff. So, you know, there, it's starting to get a little ratty looking. And I think if you can look over here, this is kind of how I'm starting to end my threads. I just get this where you can see it. I'm just pulling my needle out from the back of the fabric and cutting the tail off in the front, just because it's easier. So I'm not sure about keeping the hoops for the Heaven and Earth now. I kind of like the idea of them out on a big scroll bar, but some of them are so big that I would need to make some more scroll bars or order some, or you know, whatever. And then they're not as portable, and for me, I need to be able to take stuff where I'm going, because, you know, I might be spending the day at my in-laws, I might be, you know, running all over. I need something that's kind of portable. So when a project is kind of limited to having to live on a scroll bar, I can't talk. When a project is limited to living on a scroll bar, excuse me, it's harder to take that one around. I've been practicing with the Mary Wiggum wardrobe one and kind of dragging that everywhere, but you know, there's a size difference.